So at what point in this, you get clean, what point do you decide you're going to do something significant to try and help other people, and you start 22 Kill?
Great question. Well, I didn't decide it. It was my grandmother told me, hey, I want you to come speak to my Rotary Club. And, you know, being a man from the South, you don't tell your grandmother no. So I was like, okay, I'm going to reluctantly do this and hate it the entire time. And I did. And I showed up, and I was easily 40 years, by at least 40 years the junior in the room. So I started telling my story, and sweating grenades. So uncomfortable. All I could think about was, like, I would love to just crush, like, 10 fentanyl pops right now. And it was horrific. I mean, it was a freight train screwing an abortion. It was bad. But so it was one of those things that, like, but you can't look away type thing. It was one of those. But I remember walking out of there, and I walked out of the building. I'll never forget the side of the building. And I took a deep breath, like, okay, you know, I mean, you made it. And then when I took that deep breath, I was like, I feel lighter. Like, not physically. Like, my soul felt lighter. And I was like, oh. Then it clicked. That's what she was doing. It's tactical therapy. Mm-hmm. I get it. That freaking broad. She got me. Because I refused to talk to... I talked to a psychiatrist once when I got to the hospital, and then when I left. And then when I was getting out of the Marine Corps for the VA process, and that was it. So 2 or 3 times. Because I had nothing to say to them. Because that PTS and TBI thing, it's not whatever. It's not a real thing. When I got clean and started to drink, and I was like, oh shit. This PTS and TBI thing are very, very real. Like, very real. And went back to Texas, and I was introduced to a couple guys who started a foundation down there, and they were a couple SEALs. They're, to this day, great friends of mine, mentors of mine. They're brothers for sure. And I call them Flipper 1 and Flipper 2. And that's when I was kind of introduced to the nonprofit world and working with warriors and their families and first responders and law enforcement officers and their families. And, you know, it was like, it clicked with me. Like, I like this. I'm never going to get rich or wealthy doing this. And that's not the point. That gave me more, that put more in my soul tank than any pill or any bottle ever did. And it made me realize, like, oh, all right, this is the same reason I went and visited all the wounded every time I could, even when we lost guys in the hospital. Like, this is why I'm doing this. It's greater than me. It reminds me daily how insignificant I am. That I'm just another guy that's just choosing to do stuff that's out of the norm. It's hard stuff. Anything worth doing should be hard, and it's not worth doing alone. And when I was working with this organization, I was surrounded by people better than me. By default, I was better. And consistently pushed harder and harder because I wanted to be held to a different standard. Again, because even then I wasn't waking up like I'm going to go out of my way to be average today. No, because I had 2 freaking Navy SEALs that, you know, were worried that they had to have really good tans and their hair had to be great. And they had to have this one type of really cool sunglasses. And I was like, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to outwork these dudes. You know, I can't use a weapon anymore. I'm not going to outrun them. God knows I'm not going to outswim them. I probably can't outshoot them. My body's completely dicked up, but I could probably I could probably work with the most important tool we all have, most important weapon we all have. I could probably get to where I could outthink them. And so I started to this day, it's a toss-up, but, well, with one of them. One of them, I passed them a long time ago, but they know who they are, too. That's what makes it even more beautiful. But that's when I realized, like, all right, I need to be, this is what I got to do. This is what I'm going to be called to do, is to talk to other members of society who've been dealt whatever hand or been dealt a blow, to let them know, like, hey, yeah, right now it sucks, but you can come out the other side. Because don't get in that deep, dark rabbit hole. Don't do that. Because very few people come out of that. I know, because I tried it over and over again. And I never got out of it on my own. Always took help. And so at the time, in 2012, that's when that study came out from the VA. That on average, 22 veterans a day die by suicide. And so another Marine and a couple Marines, a business guy, got together in Dallas, and they're like, hey, man, we got to do something. This is our family. Like, no one even knows this is a thing. What the hell are we doing? And at the time, I'm working at a place that focuses completely on the brain. I mean, I'm surrounded by neuroscientists, PhDs, MDs, and I'm learning a lot of things that just reiterated the fact that post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, these are very, very real things. And I worked there for 3 years while 22 Kill started. And it basically started as an awareness movement. And that's where the push-up challenge was born, the 22 push-up challenge. That was started by 22 Kill in 2012. Just for those listening, that went viral in 2016. So, overnight success is not a real thing. And so I'm working at this center the whole time, and then there's some change up in leadership at 22 Kill, and I kind of found myself drifting away from the work I was doing at the center because it just wasn't getting to the part of the soul that I wanted to be in. And it wasn't getting to that. Like, people, I've been asked, like, how long are you going to speak? Because the travel schedule, it's brutal, right? And I thought about it for a nanosecond, and I thought, okay, well, when I walk off a stage, the first time I walk off a stage and I feel like I didn't leave a piece of my soul there, that's the last time I'll do it. Because, again, it's mutually beneficial. And if it's not, then and you're a presenter, well, you're only going to fake it for so long. People don't really, I feel like I ran a marathon when I'm done presenting for an hour. I'm mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted. And if you're not, you're faking it.
Yeah.
And so that's when I left there, and you know what I learned after 3 years of working at that place? It's completely centered around the brain and the mind. And it's unfortunate, but essentially I learned after 3 years at that place that we don't know shit about the brain. Again, I'm not going to candy coat it. It just is what it is. Why do you think we're still spending billions and billions of dollars on all this research and all these studies and trying to figure it out? Because we just don't understand it. That's why you talk about Alzheimer's and CTE. We don't even have the technology and the imaging to recognize these things in a living human. We put a man on the moon in 1969. Can't tell you if you have CTE while you're alive. for me, it's like, hey, let's step back and look at our priorities. Because one thing everyone's got is a brain. Everyone. And the problem with the brain is there's no prosthetic for that. You get the one you got, and that's it. Why are we not hyper-focused on honing this weapon that makes us who we are? And so the 22 Kill approached me and said, hey, we would love for you to come run 22 Kill. We can keep the lights on for about another month and a half. And you don't get health insurance. And you're going to have to take a pay cut. And I was like, let me think about it. Abso-freaking-lutely, yes. Because I want to be able to talk and share what I've been through with warriors and first responders and law enforcement officers and their families and say, hey, listen, you see that scar? Like, that one's worth it. This one over here, don't do that. That one's not worth it. You're going to have to fight these demons. There's no way around it. But you can win. You just have to keep fighting. Because no matter what, no matter where you find yourself in life, you're going to have to fight. Because none of us are getting up and picking out our unicorn. We're just not.
Yeah.
You wake up every day and it's you versus you. And so that's why I was drawn to that. And we had a really big first couple years I was there. And not all because of me. It had to do with a myriad of people, the people that support us, the people that say one of my biggest regrets was never serving. And I'm like, hey, who told you? Who lied to you and said that you have to wear a uniform to be of service to your nation? Because you don't. You don't. That's a misnomer. I don't wear a uniform anymore. Neither do you. Neither do you. It doesn't mean we're not serving. I don't do what I do because it's easy. I do it because it's hard. And the employees that work for 22 Kill do it because it's hard. And in the face of tremendous loss, they fight on. That's character. They're doing their dash justice. Because they're moving a mountain that our own government looks at and says, hey, pick up the corner of that rug and start sweeping and look the other way, and maybe it'll go away. It's not going away.
What can people that are listening do to help the cause?
You know, I got this from a buddy of mine who was actually an officer in the Army who was severely wounded years ago, and he I'm going to echo it just because he's right. It's, you hear all the time, like, I want to help. I want to help. Right? I mean, you hear it a lot. From whether it's, I want to help save the puppies that don't have a home. I tell people all the time, if we were trying to raise money for dogs that died by suicide, we'd be sitting on $1 billion. It's true. I mean, it's just true. I mean, how many dogs have screwed over a person? Very few, right? But it is what it is. But if you want to wake up and you want to serve or you want to help, we all have three things of value. Every human on this entire spinning ball of shit has three things of value: time, talent, and treasure. And if you're not willing to sacrifice some of one of those three things, you're just talking. That's it. You're talking. If you want to help, start sacrificing one of those three things. I don't care if it's 22 Kill. I don't care if it's to the Humane Society. I don't care. Sacrifice. Because every time we put on that uniform and our firefighters and our paramedics and our EMTs and our law enforcement officers. I mean, tell me if you would feel as confident as you did going to a foreign country, going to hook and jab, find the bad guys and kill them. Tell me if you would have felt as confident doing that, knowing that there are people back here whom you've never met willing to kick in the door to your house while it is ablaze and save your family.
Yeah, I mean, I thank all those people every single time I do this podcast, and that's exactly what I say, for taking care of our home while we were gone.
That's it.
That's absolutely.
And so, that's why it's, for me, if you're not willing to sacrifice, just like these men and women do on a daily basis, you're talking. You're talking. If there's people out there that can write a check and that's enough, and that's okay. That's okay. You're doing your part. You're doing your part. That's all right. There are people that want to share talents. There are people that say, hey, I want to volunteer. I'm a body. Use me. I'm here. That's service. That's sacrificing. And we have a myriad of ways to do it. And it's a beautiful thing because we're getting better and better at what we're doing. Because we're not doing research and studies. We're implementing the things that work. And we're able to tell these men and women, because it's notorious in the warrior community, and you're going to know right when I say it, when you see a brother, and you're like, hey, bro, you good? How are you? I'm good. Okay. How do we get you great? Because I want you great. Because greatness begets greatness. That's the living well piece. And we have to do it as a tribe together. I don't give a shit if you ever put a uniform on a day in your life. If you're willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with people that experience trauma before the trauma, and they know they've got a thing underneath a thing underneath a thing, and you're willing to say, hey, let's go start picking up pebbles and moving them, because we'll move this mountain, and it's going to be long and an arduous and a painstaking process. But look to your left and right. That's what makes it worth it. And we're doing that, and we're just getting better at it. And yeah, it's stressful. And yeah, I hate fundraising. And yeah, I hate it. But it all comes with it. It comes with the territory.
So some people are going to want to, so what, 22kill.com, is that the best place to go look?
Yeah, go to 22kill.com, learn about what we're doing. Learn about the things that we've decided to really engage our focus on, and why we're not just helping and treating the warrior or the first responder or the law enforcement officer. We want the entire family. Because when you pull up to the tire shop and you have 4 bad tires, you're not going to change just one tire, right? You got to change all 4. We got to treat the family as a unit, because I'm speaking from experience when I say we leave a big wake in our path. And I would not be surprised if my family has post-traumatic stress just from dealing with me. And the sad thing is I'm not joking. You know?
I was thinking about the nurses and doctors you left in the hospital as well, that you mentioned earlier.
They are better people because of dealing with me. So but I mean, listen, man, and just so people know, 22kill.com, they're like, well, don't you have to be .org to, no. That's you listening to the media. God forbid, do your own homework and figure it out. You can have .org, .com, .net, doesn't matter. That does not denote if you're a 501c3 or not, just for the record. And we have our saying at 22kill. When I came on, I changed it to one tribe, one fight, because you hear all the time in the military, especially, one team, one fight, one team, one fight. And I was around some guys who use the word tribe, and I thought about it, and the more and more I thought about it, I was speaking one time. I don't remember where I was, but I went to say one team, one fight, but I said one tribe, one fight. And I said because it's too easy to be a team. And if you have the same letterhead on your business cards, or you have the same insignia on your shirt, that makes you a team. A tribe goes way deeper than that. A tribe is when my first sergeant's putting his forehead against mine and doesn't say a word. Yet, I learn a life lesson. And I get the acceptance that I was longing for without even speaking. That's tribe. A tribe is driven by the same ideals, the same conviction, the same passion. I get asked all the time, like, why are we still at war in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria? Oh, because you can't kill your way out of an idea. That's why. That's what it is. God forbid we call it that. But just with us, we have programs like Camp Valhalla, which is a program where we take up warriors, first responders, law enforcement officers. The most gnarly side of it is we'll take them up in a helicopter and take them to go kill hogs out of a helicopter. Because if you don't like that, then you don't like freedom. But we also, we can take them fishing. We can take them to the range. But it's always followed up by a fireside chat. That's where the money's made. That's where you got to be vulnerable. Go get your adrenaline kick, and then be willing to lower your wall and talk about the real shit. Then we have Stay the Course, that's a traditional therapy. Camp Valhalla would be non-traditional. Stay the Course is very traditional. It's the one-on-one therapy with the warrior, first responder, his or her family. And listen, the reason that was an attractive approach was because if you look back on what is the most successful outcome measures as far as therapy goes and as far as treating matters of the mind, that has the best track record. The one-on-one. Mm-hmm. I think everyone on the spinning ball of chaos should talk to a professional at least once a month. Every single person. And I'm saying that as the guy that I would launch my piss bottle in the hospital at one if they came in my room. And I'm telling you right now, I wish I'd have started that a long time ago because it would have saved me from a lot of shit I've had to deal with because I let my pride win. That's it. I mean, don't be afraid to say what it is. We started a thing called the Brave Program, which is women specific. Because believe it or not, neither sex knows everything. They just don't. There's power in numbers, but women, when you break it down, you break the numbers down to the bare bones. They're leading the charge on everything in a negative light. And that's, I think, has a lot to do with they're a much smaller population when it comes to the service community. So they're more apt to deal in self-medication, isolation, and they don't have nearly as big as of an immediate tribe to depend on as we do because there's just way less of them. And so that's our Brave program, and they can go do all the things that all the guys do, but it's women specific because they need to be empowered too. And it's our job to help them do that without judgment. And we also have the White Star Families program that we're building out, which is basically you have the Gold Star families, which started by the DOD. Well, unfortunately, the White Star families don't have a seat at that table. White Star families, they are family members who have fallen victim to suicide. And we want to give them a table. They deserve a damn table. As you talk to those kids, they don't give a crap how their mom or dad died. They just know they don't have a mom or dad. That's enough for me. Far be it from us to not honor someone like Lewis Puller. Who the hell are we? I don't give a crap what society says, how I should feel about that. Because let me tell you something. This is something everyone needs to know. Unfortunately, I bet a lot of your listeners do know already. Suicide's just a word until it affects you personally. It's just a word. And I hear a lot where there's some corporations or owners of a mom and pop shop. Well, Jake, we would love to support you, but 22 kills is a pretty strong name. So's cancer and AIDS. It's supposed to get your attention. That's the point. Start the conversation. Because we hear all the time, knowledge is power. No, it's not. Knowledge is power when it's shared. Then it becomes powerful. And I tell people, just like I'll tell you, if you can't support us because of a name, if you can't look past a name to get to the root cause of an issue, consider yourself part of the problem. That's it. All you're doing is feeding a stigma that's killing the best men and women this nation's got to offer.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that's probably a pretty good place to wrap. We've been going for a while, and especially because you just made very clear the reason why I wanted to have you come on this podcast now, because, again, this ties everything together that I've been talking about for the past 3 podcasts. You got a guy like Lewis Puller Jr., and we got to do something.
Yeah.
Because it's still going on. And you're out there, and your people are on the front lines fighting it. And, I was watching a video that you had on your YouTube channel, and it's just pictures. Pictures of soldiers, pictures of Marines, pictures of servicemen and women, and they're just coming up on the screen. And it's all them, in their uniforms and overseas and back home, and I know what each one of those pictures is. And so I thank you for coming on. Obviously, thanks for your service, and thanks for everything you've done, and thanks for your sacrifice, and thanks for what you're doing right now.
Well, let me tell you, I learned a long time ago, you hear guys like us, the meatheads and the knuckle draggers that, I'm sick of hearing it. Thank you for your service. It was impossible for me for a long time to go in a public place. Because if I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt, it's abundantly apparent I had a shitty day at the office somewhere along the line. And it was impossible for me to get anything done, go buy bread and go home without someone stopping me. Hey, did that happen over there? Like, yeah. Thank you for your service. I was like, man, it's so annoying. I just want to get bread and go home. It never dawned on me until a few years ago. Maybe they're doing that for them. Maybe that's as much for them as it is for me. And then I thought about why I signed up. It's because I thought they were worth it. I thought their families were worth it. So I was told one time, hey, thank you. And I said, you're worth it. 2 things happened. The conversation ended there. And secondly, they probably walked out of there a little taller than they walked in. And I was like, oh, thanks God, I get it now. It's not about me. And I'll tell you, just like I tell all of them, you're worth it. Your family's worth it. All your listeners, I feel the same way. Even though I guarantee you I'm going to have a million differences with a million different of them. You're worth it. I'll do it all again tomorrow. Just had a bad day at the office. And, it's... I just want to leave your listeners with this, is that there's power. Just trust me when I tell you, there's so much power. We're about to start this thing called the Tribal Council, which I think is it's a peer-to-peer support group. And I think, I'm praying to God that it has the power behind it that I think it does. and I'm going to lead the charge. I'll be the first one to stand up on the soapbox. I'm just going to open up my chest cavity, pour my soul out in front of a group of people I've never met and say, here's the shit I deal with. Here's what I've been through. This is what I'm doing to address it. And this is how you can hold me accountable. Who's next? There's a lot of power in that. Because we have to remember, in our community, you hear it all the time. Be accountable to yourself. Be accountable to your brothers. Be accountable to your sisters. Well, unless you have brutal honesty first, you have manufactured accountability. So when I ask you, how you doing? Don't tell me good to appease me because I'm going to call you on your shit. Be great. So thank you. I'm going to turn it back on you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Because, dude, you're tip of the spear just like anyone else. Like, you are leading the charge. This wasn't easy for you to do. What you had me come here do when you talked about Chesty, when you talked about Lewis Jr., and you had me, this is not the popular thing to do. But you said, I've never been okay with the status quo. Why start now? So thank you for everything you've done and continue to do.
Well, I'll tell you, this is it's literally an honor to be able to do this. People throw that word around all the time. It is an honor for me to sit here. It's an honor for me to sit here with you, all the guests I've had on here, to be able to tell these stories that I'm sick sometimes that they're not carried on, and it's an honor for me to be able to pass on these stories so that people know and people can learn. And it's a humbling experience to do it as well, because being in the shadow of people like these guys, people like yourself, it's a humbling experience to be around warriors like that from all phases of history. And we're going to keep doing it. And when you get that program rolling, get your ass back on here. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about how it's going, and we'll get the word out on that thing too.
Right on.
Awesome.
Don't threaten me with a good time.